Okay, hey guys, how's it going? So, haven't done a video for quite a while, been busy with work, but anyway, I thought I'd do a quick chat, kind of a follow-up to my bike choice and how I've been getting on with my latest bike, which is KTM 350 excf. This is a 2019 one. I've had it for a few months now, and just a little bit about sort of me and what I do. So I mainly ride sort of trans-Euro trail type riding. It's nothing too hardcore. I sort of get around Cornwall and have just done a big trip in Devon, which is about 170 miles, tootling around Devon on it. Anyway, so a little chat about my bikes and how I've ended up on this and whether I'm happy with it, I guess, is what this is about. So I sold my Husqvarna 701 Enduro. I did really like that bike, but I more liked it on the road than I did off-road. So that was the main reason that went. I still think it probably is the best kind of unicorn bike you can buy, possibly. We'll come back to that in a minute, but it just didn't fill me full of confidence off-road. It could do it off-road, but I wasn't having as much fun because I had a bit less confidence off-road with that bike. Whereas with this one, I had a 2022 version of this before, but that one had been ridden to death, whereas this 2019 had been really looked after and clearly, had not been raced or anything like that. It had been clearly looked after, and so that's the main reason why I kind of sold the 2022 version. Obviously, I had the Tenere 700, I had the 701, I had the Honda 300 L CRF, I had the Fantic 500 for a while. So I've really been churning through my bikes quite a lot, trying to find the sort of, I know there's no unicorn bike, that's why it's a unicorn bike, but just trying to find the bike that kind of suits me and my riding. I'm not a hardcore rider, but I do enjoy flicking it around off-road, finding little sort of jumps and hops and skips and all that kind of stuff. Like I really want to enjoy my time off-road, because I mean most of my riding is, if I'm on the road to get to the off-road sections. But like I say, I don't do anything too hardcore, so I don't sort of think I'm wheeling up gigantic hills and doing massive great big airs and all the rest of it, because I'm not. I'm enjoying my time off-road, but I'm not a hardcore rider. Bear in mind, I've only been riding about sort of 2 years, or getting on 3 years now, I guess. So anyway, back to the bike. So yeah, this thing is just, it's almost too easy for kind of Cornish tet type work. It probably is almost too easy. It needs to be like really muddy or some of the most challenging sections for this bike to really shine in those situations. But generally, any kind of off-road riding, this thing just makes it so easy that it's hard to, it's like what they say, once you've gone to something like an Enduro or a KTM, it's hard to then go back to like a semi-adventure bike or a softer CRF 300 or something like that, because they will all do the same lanes, but you just will not have quite as much fun. This has just got such a nice balance of weight and power and decent suspension and all the rest of it. It really does feel a lot of the time like a mountain bike. So you can just chuck it around. It's just so light. And if you have a steep, awkward, slippy bit, it's just stress-free. Like, you're still slightly concerned you're going to go over the bars and do something wrong, but it's just, this thing makes it about as easy as it possibly could be. And so, you know, like I say, I'm not a hardcore rider, so I like that. I like the fact that this is very easy to ride. The clutch is super light. The low revs torque is just nice and bumbly, so you can bumble along, but at the same time you've got the power if you need it to really enjoy a fast section as well. So it performs so well off-road. It just makes everything else feel a bit podgy or a bit sort of overweight, or I don't know, it's hard to go back to anything else, which is a bit of a shame really, because there is a few things I don't like about it. So in terms of reliability, this thing's been completely reliable. It started every time. I've not had a single thing go wrong or a single issue. The only thing I would say is I don't really trust the electronics. When they get wet, I get random lights flashing up on the dashboard telling me the high beam's on when it's not, and things like that. And the tail light, sometimes I got to flush out the some of the wiring to make the brake light work again and things like that if it gets too wet. The thing started every single time. It runs quite sort of, definitely it doesn't get hot and bothered is what I'm trying to say. It doesn't ever feel like it's going to overheat. It's got a fan kit on there, but I've never actually heard that fan kit kick on. I mean, obviously I'm riding in Cornwall. It's not like this is the hottest place in the world, but you do go down some very sort of long lanes in the summer and the sun's beating down on you, so I do get pretty hot, and this thing has never faltered. It's never felt like it's overheating or kind of, you know, the clutch never feels like it's going to burn out or anything like that, even though I'm, you know, on some of the hills I'm working the clutch quite a lot. It's just been, yeah, it's never put a foot wrong. Like some bits of the bike do feel quite cheap, but it's mainly because they're trying to make the thing light. They're trying to make the thing lightweight, and so there's got cheap components on it in terms of, you know, they're not bulky or they're not that strong. Just because they want the bike to stay light. I don't like this bash plate. That's a little tiny thing obviously, but I like bash plates I can get on and off easy. This one's a bit of a fiddle, so I think I prefer to put a plastic one on. As you can see, I've whacked the Krieger bag system, which I've had on most of my bikes. You do need on this one, you do need to have a some kind of heat shield on your exhaust, otherwise you will burn your bags. It just about makes it round here without burning the strap, but those are great bags. I did sometimes used to have stuff on my tail, but I hate catching your boots on it every time you get on and off, you know, stopping it, open and close gates and all that kind of stuff, and you have to sort of like step over the bike rather than swinging your leg over. So I prefer these. They keep the weight a bit lower, so you can keep all your tools in there. I have my navigation system is a bit crude. I just use my iPhone basically in this little givey bag, which is cheap and cheerful, but it does its job. I can hold a few bits and bobs. I've got a battery charger in there in case I get a bit low on juice as I'm going along. Got a double take mirror. Ideally this should be on this side really in the UK, but it sort of fouls the throttle cabling a little bit, so I'm fine with it on that side. You know, it's not like I'm doing loads of motorway work or anything like that where I really need a mirror on that side. That does a pretty good job. And then there's got a basic tool bag whacked on the front there, just with bits and bobs, mainly for changing tyres if I need it. Do have an LED headlight on this thing, but this one is kind of like a daylight running one really, because it's either really bright in their faces or it's off. I do have the standard headlight which I can pop back in there if I need to, if I don't expect to do a bunch of you know, long road work. So that's the standard stock Enduro Michelin medium on there, and the same on the back. This one's actually not that old. I put this on just before I did the 170 Devon mile run. As you can see, it's rounding off pretty quickly, so I'm not expecting this to last very long, but I do like these tyres. I do rate them. They're not too noisy on the road. I mean, obviously in wet roads any knobbly tyre is going to be a bit sketchy, just the same as this one is, but in the dirt it's great. It hooks up and it's not too noisy. Like I had the trackers before on the 300L Michelin trackers, and I did not like the whining noise that those things emitted on any kind of fast roads. These ones don't do that, and they hook up nicely in the mud, so I've been pretty happy with these Michelin Enduros. But like I said, don't expect them to last very long. You can see the amount of rounding I've got going off here, and that's pretty much from one trip. I did do a bit of a ride today, went out with a mate on his 890, and he let me have a little go on his 890 as well, which is nice of him. Nothing too stressful, but just some sort of local lanes. Quite enjoyed that one. lovely day for it. God, we've got nice cool winds. Perfect.
Yeah.
I love all this.
It's amazing, isn't it?
So heavy. Oh my god, the steering damping is weird. Ah. I don't like the steering damping at all. Apart from that and Devon, that's the only rides that rear tyre's had, and yeah, it's starting to get eaten into quite a bit. I've got a big old sprocket on the back there. Forget what it is. It's oh my gosh, I think it might be. I'll put on the screen what it is. I can't remember, but it's fairly stock. I think possibly 2 teeth smaller than stock on the back. I think. It means you can cruise at 60 happily. It will do 70. But you are starting to rev it a fair amount there. But I really like, I know, you know, it eats into the top end, so it means cruising's not that comfortable with this kind of setup, but I just really like when you're on the technical, like slow hill climbs and all that kind of stuff, first and second gear is so low, it just makes it just easy, and you don't need to be using the clutch and all the rest of it. So there's no point ruining your low speed technical riding by, you know, making your motorway cruising a bit better, because at the end of the day, this is not a bike for motorway cruising regardless. It will do it. My main issue I have with high-speed sort of cruising on this thing is the fact I haven't balanced these wheels. You know, it's a dirt bike at the end of the day, and a lot of people don't bother, but I should balance them a bit better. I just, you know, I need to borrow a balancing stand and do it. I've got the weights at home, just haven't got around to it. So yeah, my main issue with this cruising at sort of 65 miles an hour is the from the unbalanced wheels, and that's not obviously a bike issue. It's something I can easily sort. But you will quickly chew through your tyres, enduro tyres, doing that kind of riding. So, you know, it's just not what the bike's for. In terms of maintenance, it's very, very easy to change your filters and do your oil. I've not cracked the engine to do the valve clearances yet. I've done over 1,000 miles on this bike now, so I'm getting to the point where I need to. I probably could quite happily do it myself, but I'm tempted to get it done properly at the KTM dealership, just so then it's on the paperwork. I know that's a very un-KTM owner type comment to say, but yeah, I'm just tempted to get it done because this bike's got loads of paperwork. It's clearly been really, really looked after, loads of dealership services, and I may as well just continue with that and yeah, keep it ticking along nicely. Anyway, I'm sort of waffling, but in terms of the brakes, I love the brakes on this thing. They are exactly how, you know, they work exactly how I want them to work. It's not a massive disc on the front and it's not a massive disc on the back, but they both have loads of good feel. The suspension is, I would say, it's slightly softer than you'd probably expect if you've never ridden a 350 XCF before. Enduro bike, I would say the suspension's probably a bit softer than you think it's going to be. It's not like a hardcore dirt bike where it's really taut. There's loads of adjustability, so you can tweak that. You know, you've got your fast rebound, slow rebound, you've got tons and tons of adjustability on it, so you can certainly taut it up, but generally out of the box it's slightly softer than I expected. You know, we're not talking about like Honda CRF 300 soft, not like that. It's just got a little bit of plushness to it, not crazy hard dampening. Do you know what I mean? So it does mean, you know, if you're covering a lot of clackety long trails that are kind of, you know, you're really trying to cover the miles, it does mean that you get a little bit less tired because you're not sort of being shook around quite so much. But it does mean that if you know, do hit something fast and hard, the suspension will give, you know, I've never bottomed it out, but, you know, like I said, I'm not a hardcore rider, but the suspension will give possibly a bit more than you maybe are expecting for this type of a bike. Anyway, so what else should we say? So another thing I'll say, if you're getting into this kind of riding and you're sort of wondering about getting into KTM, you've never been before, I mean, yes, the service intervals and that kind of thing are a pain, but I think the big red flag I would give to people that are kind of, you know, coming from like a Honda CRF or maybe coming from an adventure bike like a Tenere 700 or something like that, and they're looking at getting a proper enduro dirt bike, the marketplace is a lot more sketchy. There's definitely a lot more bikes where, you know, they've just taken the magnet off the front wheel and the bike's done way more mileage than it says. It's very easy to fake that on these things, and the type of riders that ride these bikes, not to be rude, but a lot of them can be a bit sketchy. So it's a bit more of a minefield buying used KTMs than it is like buying a used Honda or a Yamaha or something like that. That's what I found anyway. And also these things are a real target for thieves, so that is worth considering. So I've already had this bike stolen once, absolute bunch of bastards. They stole it, and luckily they were disturbed as they were loading it into the back of their van. They broke a lever and scratched it up and stuff where they just dropped it in the middle of the road, but no major damage, and obviously I got it back. You know, they didn't get caught, unfortunately. They tore off just as they were disturbed, but they did manage to get it about a quarter of a mile down the road, carrying it with big locks on it, and they're in the middle of putting it in the van when yeah, they got caught. Since then I've got trackers on it, so I get an alerts on my phone if it gets moved. I've put a ground anchor on it. I've got a massive great big Oxford chain which goes right through the frame. I've got 2 D-locks. One of them is those highly resistant light locks, which goes through the back wheel, so that's highly resistant to grinder. So to be honest with you, I very much doubt they're gonna get away with it again, because yeah, even if they twitch the bike when it's outside, I'll get an alert on my phone and it will wake me up and I'll go down, and it's not an alarm in that they'll know that the alarm is tripped. So, and even if they do get away with it, they'll be able to track its position. So I've hidden 2 trackers on the bike. So yeah, so you really do need to secure these bloody things. Other complaint I'd probably say is if you do sort of trail riding in the UK, you know, we often share lanes with horse riders and bikes and all the rest of it. And personally, this exhaust that's on there that the previous owners put on, it's a bit louder than I would like. It is a little bit obnoxious. It's a very enjoyable sound and it sounds really sweet, but it is slightly louder than I would ideally like for a sort of trails bike. Something like the Honda 300L is much softer, much less obnoxious noise to, you know, ride past horses with and all the rest of it. You know, that's just a sort of little criticism, and I could obviously easily swap that out, but it's a fairly expensive performance exhaust, so it seems a shame to take it off. But yeah, slightly obnoxious noise. I think the whole thing is pretty hard wearing. Like, you know, like I said, it's been dropped and dragged down a road by a bunch of thieves, and only a couple of things got scraped up. I really could have done with having proper hand protectors, hand guards on here, which wrap around. Obviously, that would have stopped my lever getting broken. But overall, it seems very tough. The wheels are very well made, suspension's very well made. I've had no leaky seals, nothing like that. overall the bike's easy to look after and a lot of fun to ride, and it's basically, yeah, it seems to be pretty bomb proof. I mean, I know that the reputation for KTM isn't that great, but I don't know how truthful that really is. I think as long as you look after them and you're not ragging the hell out of it, I think they're pretty good. I mean, I had more issues on my brand new Honda CRF 300 than I've had on this. I had the wheels were massively untrue on that. I had lots of cutout issues on that. You know, I've had nothing on this. So, you know, I know that's just one person's observations, but you know, either way, I've had no issues, touch wood. So definitely have to say things like that. Anyway, I'm clearly just waffling, but I just thought I'd give you a little bit of a catch up really on my bike situation and you know what I'm doing. And I would say that, like I said, because this thing is so good off-road, it does mean that you're more likely going to get bored if the trails are a bit bland and average. Like the average kind of like farm track starts to become a bit boring on this thing, because this thing is just so good, it eats it up without even noticing. So it does mean that it will push you into riding more and more technical, difficult stuff if you've got a bike like this. You know, I came to it with having very low off-road skills, and already I'm just finding myself looking for places to jump it, and you know, nothing too hardcore, but it's just what the bike wants to do. It fills you full of confidence, it makes you think you can do it, and so I'd say cater the bike to the type of trails you're going to be riding and the type of trails that are going to be near you. For me in Cornwall, I'd almost say that there's almost not enough difficult trails for this bike with me at the moment. I'm still enjoying myself just tootling along, but it just really wants to go steep, fast, hard, do jumps and all the rest of it. That's what the bike wants to do, and if you're not doing that, you almost just you start to get a little bit bored. You know, like when I used my mate's 890 today, I was like, you know, this is much more of a challenge on this little lane here. Is these little stones and bumps and rocks and little wallows, they're much more interesting on this bigger bike than what they are on mine. On mine, I'm enjoying them, but I'm always looking for the next hard little lump that I can jump off or something, whereas on that thing I'm going around them and avoiding the difficult sections. Anyway, clearly I'm just waffling, so apologies, but I just thought I'd do a bit of a talk about the bike and a talk about my riding and my experiences swapping from bike to bike to bike to bike. And I would just say, the final warning, I was just say, if you get one of these things, just bear in mind that it's going to spoil you for any other type of dirt bike or off-road bike, or adventure bike or scrambler or anything like that, because these things are just so good. They're so much more like a mountain bike that it's going to make everything else feel a bit flabby and unfit in comparison. So just be warned about that. There is a reason why these things are rated so well off-road. Anyway guys, I spoke to 20 minutes now about a load of nonsense, but I just thought that would be vaguely useful. I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.